Let's do a show, everybody. I'm excited for this show. Why? Because it's December. We're turning into week 14 already. And have we got a deal for you? My name is Andrew Siciliano. This is Inside Coverage, the how and the why, any and everything you need to know about the National Football League. We have a deal. We have a deal that Jori Epstein and Frank Schwab and I are happy to give you at this holiday season as you do your shopping. Jori, Frank does not know this, but this is our deal. We are offering his free playoff projections coming up in about 25 minutes that are guaranteed to be right for the holidays or the day after Christmas, which is Friday the 26th. You can take these guarantees back and get your money back.
I mean, I don't know. Do we want to offer this free, or do we want to offer it specifically for people who give us 5 stars, leave us nice comments? I don't know that we should give away something that's valuable without
nice comments. Nice comments is actually asking a lot. Nice comments.
Frank, why don't we turn that
rare.
frown upside down? Like Frank put in the chat yesterday, all the negativity, the emails you get and all that. If we turn that negativity into positivity, 5-star reviews, then we're going to give these playoff projections for free.
Maybe a 5-star review with a negative comment. You can write your negative comment. You can acknowledge that Frank is bald, which nobody knew before the commenters started commenting.
Nobody knew.
But just give us 5 stars while you're at it. It's fine. One Spotify. You can make a comment on each of the different platforms if you give us the reviews. There's so much potential here.
There's a lot, yeah. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. You're asking for comments. That is just bad. It's bad news to ask for more comments. But
Frank, you're a good
I love
sport.
you, Chicago.
You know that, right?
I still love you. Still love you, Chicago. Yeah. Great
you're
sport,
a very good sport.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I got a game there in a couple of weeks. I am looking for what is this week? Next weekend, week 15.
Yeah.
I'm looking
tell you how to eat
the
hot dogs and stuff. Yeah. That's what they're
the
good
Wieners.
At.
I used to hang at the Wiener Circle back in the day. I've told the story. There is a rat in the alley next to the Wiener Circle, Lincoln and Fullerton. Lincoln and Wrightwood, really-ish. That was the size of a small horse. But they have great food. It's fantastic. All right, there's that image for the holidays. Sorry, guys. All right. There was a duck at the game last night. You want to talk about that? Anyone see the duck in the front row at Foxborough? Anybody? Jackson Dart saw the duck. He did not duck. Let's get to the game. The Patriots demolished the Giants 33-15. This game was seemingly over in 10 minutes. It was over at the end of the first quarter. Giants got a late touchdown. The score is not 33-15 is not in any way indicative of how badly the Patriots blew out the Giants. The Patriots have now a 57% chance of the 1 seed and a bye. The idea that the AFC, the road to the Super Bowl, will likely go through Foxborough, there's a better chance than not with the Patriots getting a bye, is absurd. But they can beat anybody. And they have now won 10 games in a row. And the MVP will come down to who has the better month between Drake May, who was fantastic last night, or Matthew Stafford. We knew that Mike Vrabel coached this team well, guys. We knew that he had been, with some wise free agent spending and the development of a second-year quarterback with Josh McDaniels, had hit on something, and this team was heading to the playoffs. But last night, in a primetime showcase, they made a statement against a very bad team. We'll get to the Giants in a second. A very, very bad team, and that needs to be taken into consideration. But they came out and they punched that bad team in the mouth. And with the entire world watching, they let people know that if you come to Foxborough, Jori, whether it's week 1 of the preseason, let's say they don't get the bye, or whether it's the divisional round, you are going to get punched in the mouth. And we want everybody tonight on the first Monday of December to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's all 3 phases of the game that the Patriots thoroughly outplayed the Giants. I mean, you said the game was over by the end of the first quarter. I would also note that means the game was over before the Giants' 3rd overall pick of the entire draft, Abdul Carter, even saw time. I know we will get to that. But, I mean, this is a team that Drake May is just connecting on the deep ball with multiple different players. The defense is making life very difficult for Jackson Dart, who, by the way, maybe protect yourself every once in a while. And then on special teams, we have a 94-yard punt return touchdown from Marcus Jones before you even get into whether the Giants are able to kick the ball and figure out what to do with the turf, with the grass. I don't know what that was all about. But I think when I look at this, I just see, to have a guy like Marcus Jones who now has touchdowns, offense, defense, special teams, it just seems like they're hitting on so many different cylinders. And I know there was some conversation on Monday night about the job that Mike Vrabel's doing and how we shouldn't let that keep us from understanding what general manager Elliott Wolf did. First of all, getting Drake May before Mike Vrabel was back in that building. And second of all, both on free agency and the draft, they hit on guys. When we look at the Commanders and whether they were real last year, I think they were kind of overperforming their talent. I do think there's some of that this year with New England, that there is a little bit of hey, it's something new, we're fresh, we're catching some breaks, and their schedule certainly is not the most difficult schedule out there. But I also think they just assembled several really good players and guys like Drake May and Travion Henderson, and the list can go on, who you can build around for years to come.
Yeah. Every Sunday, this didn't happen yesterday, obviously. There was only one game going on, but every Sunday, usually in the early window, Patriots are on one TV over here, a couple TVs over is the Titans. And every Sunday I'll have the thought, how on earth could the Titans fire Mike Vrabel? How? We knew he was this good.
How many TVs do you have, Frank?
I don't have any, but Buffalo Wild Wings has a lot of them, and that's where I am every Sunday. If you guys want to sponsor me, hey, Buffalo Wild Wings in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. But I just Mike Vrabel is one of the best coaches in the NFL and always has been. He's always gotten the most out of his talent. So to see this team, Marcus Jones, great example, Jori, of a guy who they know how to use in different spots. We can get the most out of this guy. We can maximize his talent. That's what's happening with this Patriots team. They had a great offseason, absolutely fantastic. I thought that they had the best free agency of any team this offseason and the best draft of anybody this offseason. You put that together with a top 5 coach and a quarterback who's coming into his own. And this Patriots team is really good. And, people say, it doesn't matter if you just barely squeak by a team or blow out a team. It actually does. It matters. That's been proven time after time. Stuff like point differential is very good in being predictive. And to see the New England Patriots kind of handling these bad teams, you talk about the soft schedule all you want. And it's true. They've played a soft schedule, but they've taken advantage of it. They pounded the Giants last night. Let's not forget, pretty recently, the Giants went to Detroit and should have won that game. It was a miracle field goal to save the Lions that day. The Giants haven't given up by any means. They just got beat. And that's a good sign for the Patriots going forward. I think that they're playing at a level where I do think they're going to get the number 1 seed in the AFC. We'll talk about that later. A little spoiler alert. And if you're 2 home wins away from a Super Bowl and you have a coach like Mike Vrabel and he's got a 50-50 shot of winning MVP quarterback in Drake May, why can't you make a Super Bowl? It would be of all the stories of this NFL season, there's been a lot of weird storylines, fun storylines, all that. The New England Patriots making it back to the Super Bowl, just 6 years after Tom Brady leaves, when everybody was just dunking on the Patriots and, oh my goodness, Patriots are dead and it's going to take them forever to turn it around. Them making it back to the Super Bowl would be alternately cool and pretty fun to see everybody lose their minds over it.
I think there's a deeper conversation to be had about the schedule, because I think you give Frank the Patriots a little more credit for beating these teams badly. I totally agree with you when it comes to that, for their wins in a soft schedule as opposed to other teams for their wins in a soft schedule. But I do think it needs to be pointed out last night that the Patriots were without Milton Williams, and they gave him a huge contract in the offseason, so highest paid player. Without Will Campbell, he's on IR, so this year's first-round pick, top 5 pick at left tackle. Without Tonga, who's as good a run stopper as they have on their roster in the middle of that D-line. So they have their injuries, and they have overcome those injuries. Jori, I do think it's also interesting here. Elliott Wolf certainly deserves credit because this year's class has been a home run. Last year's class was not, though. Other than Drake May, which is the most important pick in the class, hands down. He's your franchise quarterback. You got the guy. And as soon as you've got the guy, all the other pieces are a lot easier to fill in around the guy. The rest of that class was really bad. As a matter of fact, the rest of that class, the overwhelming majority of it, is already out of the building. Now, a lot of that happens when you have a new coach come in. I don't like that guy. Get him out of here. I want my guys. Of course, that is a tale as old as time, and that is not something unique to football. That's baseball, basketball, hockey, you name it. All the sports are like that. Get rid of the other guys. But last year's class was really bad, other than Drake May. And that's all that matters. They got the guy. It'll be fascinating to see how they build personnel-wise moving forward. But this year's offseason class, Milton Williams being one of those guys, has been fantastic. And the Patriots keep on winning. Patriots schedule the rest of the way, so they get a bye right now. They have a late bye. Both of these teams, Pats and the Giants, have byes.
Yeah.
Then they get Buffalo. They beat Buffalo, they win the division because they've already beaten them once. That was week 5 on Sunday night. Then they go to Baltimore. Who knows who the Ravens are? The Jets game is maybe a little bit tougher now. That's the total trap game here in week 16, right? Week 16, no, 17. And then they get the Dolphins in week 18. Yeah, but wow, the AFC, the road to the playoffs, the road to the Super Bowl for now is going to go through Foxborough. Let's try to make sense of the Giants because, I mean, it's ugly. With that loss, they're going to finish with 6 wins or fewer for the 8th time since 2016, which is the most for any of the 32 NFL teams. Joe Schoen's press conference is going to be really interesting because most GMs do their pressers on the bye week. Right now, Joe's is scheduled for next Tuesday.
Andrew, he did it today.
Yes. Oh, he did it today. My fault. I thought
Yeah.
He did it today. My apologies. Okay. Yeah, let's go. Let's talk about that. Okay. Because Abdul Carter, Jori, the player you mentioned, Abdul Carter, for the second time in 3 games under Mike Kafka, the interim head coach, was benched at the start of the game. Don't believe that crazy fake Twitter account about why that was going on out there before. Don't believe that. No.
Come on, Andrew, say it.
Baloney. Don't believe that. He was late again. Tardiness is an issue. Now, his Abdul Carter's pressure numbers are great. He's number 11 when it comes to pressures, but he has only a sack and a half, and a lot of the things that we heard out of Penn State about immaturity have seemingly reared their ugly head here in the NFL. Jori, give me some more Joe Schoen notes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Joe Schoen did say that he completely supports Mike Kafka, the interim head coach's handling of Abdul Carter, of his disciplinary situations. I mean, we saw a couple weeks ago against the Packers, Abdul Carter did not play the first series. Now that advanced to the entire first quarter against the Patriots, which is significant. I mean, as we mentioned, like they were down 17-0 by the time he got into the game. And so I'm not saying that he could have single-handedly changed that, but to suggest that he couldn't have influenced it somewhat, like you drafted him 3rd overall in the entire draft for a reason. And Joe Schoen was publicly both saying, look, I endorse what Mike Kafka's doing, and also I'm not going to go publicly bash my player because he's 21 years old. These guys come in at 21, 22. They've got the bright lights of New York City. They have to learn how to grow up. I just think it's worth considering based off what I understand of the Giants and other teams that have been in similar situations that there are a lot of guys who come into the league and do things like this. And, hey, I don't want to practice. I'm sore, but then they're not going to the training room. Or, hey, I meant to be in that meeting, or I didn't go to the extra film session, or whatever it is. And I think oftentimes coaches let them get away with that. And especially if there's a coach or a general manager on a hot seat, then they're like, look, you know what? Like, I can't really afford to lose this guy and lose his buy-in. I have to give him this leash. And then they feel like the next year they can't pull it back in. And so I think it's interesting that Mike Kafka, who I don't know what his chances are of getting the job next year. Joe Schoen did say in his press conference that he will get a real look. He is currently getting a real look at it, and he supports Kafka for the foreseeable future, at least till the season ends. But I do give Mike Kafka a lot of credit, and I think that league leadership will notice this, and ownership groups and other teams who might want to hire Mike Kafka in the future will be like, hey, he's not afraid to do that, even if it's somewhat unpopular. As it relates to Joe Schoen's big picture messages, it's really, look, the New York media was very hard on him. And hey, why do you get to keep your job when Brian Daboll didn't? Why do you feel like you should keep doing it when, oh, by the way, even after Brian Daboll, you're not winning? Why do you feel like you can stand on your laurels of who you drafted when a guy like Abdul Carter's not showing up to meetings? I think it's also fair, and Joe Schoen mentioned this point, that he was the head person in the personnel group when they drafted guys like Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, Malik Neighbors last year, Theo Johnson, who looks like he's really developing as a tight end. I mean, there are quite a few players, so I'm not suggesting he didn't miss on guys, but there is somewhat of a core. And when you look at why this is an attractive job two head coaching candidates, Joe Schoen's like, well, who do you think assembled the group that's attractive?
All good points. I do on the Abdul Carter thing, the missing meetings, the unprofessionalism, whatever you want to call it. That's not great, obviously, but we haven't touched on something that I think is pretty important. He has not been good as a player. He had his first sack of the entire season last night. He has 1.5 sacks.
0 yards loss.
He has 17 tackles. And please give me every Pro Football Focus stat in the world that says he's actually better than the stats. I really don't care. He has not lived up to the hype.
I'm not fighting with you.
They do. But
the sack numbers are too low. But you don't think the pressures are a significant stat?
Yes, no? The pressures are. That's fine.
He's number 11 in the NFL.
I'm not saying he's a zero. I'm not saying he's just. But the production hasn't been good either. Like, I think we could agree that fine. Pro Football Focus has a ton of pressures, and he has played better than 1.5 sacks. I'll give that, but I still think we have to say this has been a disappointing rookie season just on the field for Abdul Carter.
Yes.
If he never got in trouble, if he never got suspended, should be saying, "Is this it? Really? He's got 1.5 sacks. Okay, like that's not much of an impact." So, but I do think when it comes to Shane, I do think this Giants job is attractive in many ways, and in many ways it's not, because it hasn't won in a long time. The Giants have just become one of these franchises we think of as a good franchise, but it's not. Like, they just keep losing and losing and losing and losing. And yeah, Eli Manning won some Super Bowls, and that's awesome, but that was a long time ago. Those trophies are kind of dusty by now. So can you turn around a franchise with a GM who's already in place? He's not your guy. Like, you're not coming in together. We've talked about that setup many times now. That's a more ideal process. With a quarterback who has no desire to protect himself whatsoever. Like, none. Like, Jackson Dart is not going to last long in this league if he keeps playing.
Reckless, actually.
I'm sorry. It's really, I can't even imagine. Like, those coaches must be going crazy. They'd have to be telling him every day, like, Jackson, just slide. Just go out of bounds. Just slide. Just go out of bounds. And then they watch him just get blasted. And all of his teammates do the fake tough guy thing and stick out. He got hit legally. Like, what are we talking about? Like, if you want to fight somebody, fight Jackson Dart. Like, hey, get out of bounds, kid. So I just think that this Giants job is going to be touted as one of the better ones on the market. In some ways, I get it. There is some young talent, and Joe Schoen has drafted good players. But in some ways, I'm like, are we ignoring that the Giants have kind of been terrible for more than a decade now? Like, I don't know how you turn it's not going to be an easy turnaround as it's going to be sold as this offseason.
Frank, I'm so glad you mentioned the quarterback element, because I think that's so interesting as it relates to who will be the Giants head coach in 2026. I think when we look at it, first of all, Joe Schoen did say in his press conference that he thought Jackson Dart's really big hit that he took on Monday night was unnecessary, or probably unnecessary were his words. So he did kind of say, like, hey, this guy's got to pull it in a little bit. To me, what's fascinating is going into this season, we all felt like Brian Daboll and Jackson Dart were such a good match because they're tough, they're physical, they've got the swagger, they both have kind of like they play very emotionally, coach very emotionally, and that was going to be a fit, whereas Brian Daboll with Daniel Jones, who's much more stoic, was not a fit. I actually think we read the room wrong here, and while passion is good and passion can compound, we actually need an adult in the room who's going to tell Jackson Dart, that's great that you want to do this, but this is reckless, you're not going to be available, and we can't just have you and Cam Skadbu and all you guys who just want to play super recklessly and physically without understanding the consequences of that for your availability. We can't have you doing that. And so to me, I would think about it and I say, well, what coach would Jackson Dart actually listen to, who could actually get into his mind and really change the way he's wired in some ways on how he plays the game? Because again, I'm not trying to say that Jackson Dart doesn't want to play or he's not being like, none of this is malicious. This is just like a competitive guy and you can't take the competitive spirit out of it. But to me, there's a clear answer here. And I'm curious what y'all think of this, because to me, when I say, well, who's a quarterback recently who we've seen in this league who it's a little bit hard to rein him in. Maybe he's going on a Pat McAfee show while he's playing for a New York team. Maybe he's doing other things, but there is a head coach who he says, you know what, I'm not going to go on that Pat McAfee show for it. I'm not going to do the things that I wanted to do, even though I was talented enough to do it my way. There is a coach out there who, by the way, happened to mention this week on Tuesday, and I know we'll talk about this more on the Wednesday show with ESPN Steelers reporter Brooke Byer, but Mike Tomlin, when asked about the fire Tomlin chance, started off by saying, I agree, and here's why, and then talked about not winning. So I don't think there's a 0% chance that Mike Tomlin says, hey, it's time for something new. And don't you think that Jackson Dart would listen to Mike Tomlin?
Yes. I think that's a great
Jori,
are
we putting Mike Tomlin in New York as head coach of the Giants? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Do it.
Okay.
That's awesome. I
love
it. I think it's a great. I think it's a great idea.
You said Aaron Rodgers. I'm thinking Mike McCarthy. He is a free agent. If they call Mike McCarthy, I guarantee you we'll take the interview. We're going Mike Tomlin.
Yes, Mike. No. Mike. Look, Mike McCarthy's a good guy. I worked with him in Dallas. I like him. He's not the one who got Aaron Rodgers to stop going on McAfee. This is Mike Tomlin, who Aaron Rodgers went in and said, I have so much respect for the way he's doing it. And I think it's time for a change. And by the way, the number one thing that Mike Tomlin has not had in Pittsburgh since he last went to the won a playoff game close to 10 years ago, went to the Super Bowl at the very beginning of his career, is a quarterback. And the Giants have that in Jackson Dart. They just need someone who's going to be able to say, hey, I need you to play this way, and here's why. And I know how this works. I've done this before, and I have the skins on the wall for you to listen to me. And if Aaron Rodgers will listen to Mike Tomlin, I think Jackson Dart will too.
Okay, so in this scenario, do the Giants have to give the Steelers draft capital for Mike Tomlin, who is under contract?
He is under contract, but I'm not sure that the Steelers are going to want Tomlin. I know we've talked about how they might not fire him, but I don't think there's a 0% chance that they both say, it's time for a change. We've had a great run together.
I mean,
again, we'll see. But if the Ravens win the division and the Steelers continue to look this way, as we've talked about, Aaron Rodgers was a Mike Tomlin decision and it hasn't worked. So there are multiple things that have not worked. The defense this year has not had the Mike Tomlin physicality that we have seen in recent years. Now, at some points in the season they have, but certainly not consistently. And at the end of the 2024 season, they really went on a tailspin when they lost 5 straight games. And so I just think that sometimes it's good for a fresh start. And Mike Tomlin's still an attractive coach candidate. He should be. He's a great coach. And the Giants are an attractive job. And then even Joe Schoen, it's like, okay, you can keep Joe Schoen there because ownership likes him, but Tomlin gets some degree of personnel say. So I think that that's kind of how you figure out the Joe Schoen piece, is that the same way I think Mike Vrabel has quite a say in personnel in New England. And we see people with quite a bit of say on the head coach. I mean, Kyle Shanahan has quite a bit of say 49ers. I could go on. You let Joe Schoen stay in the job, but he's not necessarily getting to supersede Mike Tomlin on certain decisions, such as Russell Wilson or Justin Fields last year.
Frank?
Love it. I mean, if that were to happen, I think the Giants would be completely invigorated right away. Then I'd look at that job a lot differently. You're getting somebody in a room who could change the culture. This isn't Joe Judge. This isn't Ben McAdoo. This isn't Brian Daboll. This is Mike Tomlin. This is a guy who has a Hall of Fame resume, as I've said many times. So I would love it. I think that he would be a perfect fit. I think he could deal with that city. I think he could. Everything about it, I would like. Everything about it. And I have gotten to the point. I've said over and over and over again, hey, Steelers fans, be careful what you wish for. You can chant fire Tomlin all you want. You might hire the next Adam Gase, right? Like, there's no guarantee you're going to get the next Bill Cowher, Chuck Noll, Mike Tomlin, right? There's no guarantee of that. But we talked about yesterday, like the Andy Reid Eagles thing just keeps ringing in my mind of, hey, Andy, we know you're a great coach. We know that. We know you're going to go on to do good things, but this just isn't working anymore. We just need to do something different. Worked out for the Eagles, worked out for the Chiefs. And I think the same thing could be true. The Steelers are in for a big rebuild coming up. I don't think they've admitted that to themselves. It's going to be hard for them to admit that to themselves. But I watch that team. I don't care that they're 6-6. There's really nothing to get excited about with that team. And I'm not talking about 2025. I'm talking about the next couple of years. Like, what is there? What do you point to and say that's why the Steelers aren't going to take a big step back? There's a big rebuild coming. And I think maybe it's just time to say, you know what, let's go get Jesse Minter to be part of our rebuild. And Mike, hey, we'll build a statue for you someday, but this just isn't working anymore.
All right, deeper dive as Jori. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one last note I want to make on this is that when I think about whether Mike Tomlin would consider leaving, again, because this is suggesting that we do think he has a say in this decision, Mike Tomlin has played for an extremely stable franchise from an ownership standpoint, and a franchise that does give you a runway. He's not going to go take a job like Tennessee where there's just so much instability, so much changeover.
Correct.
And I'm not saying the Giants have always had coaches, and when they lose a lot, yes, they turn it over. But the Giants and the Maras are good owners. Like, I'm not saying that they're winning all the time, but I do think that people trust in their ownership to a degree. So I don't think that this is an ownership group that Mike Tomlin would want to keep away from.
Yeah, and no, that's a valid point here as well. And complicating the entire thing here is obviously Mr. Mara's health. John Mara is battling cancer right now. Joe Schoen is the general manager There is some thought that depending on who the next head coach is, maybe Joe Shane is not the GM next year. There are a lot of moving parts here, and it makes the Giants situation a little bit more complicated. As Jori mentioned, Brooke Pryor, who covers the Steelers for ESPN on this show on Wednesday. On the show coming up next, is the AFC South good? Think about that, because the Colts aren't running away with it anymore. That's on Inside Coverage. Don't go anywhere. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo. Andrew Siciliano, Jori Epstein, and Frank Schwab. If you were to go to Yahoo's NFL page right now, I highly recommend it. You would see a headline: NFL panic meter. Colts were 7-1 and now aren't a lock to even make the playoffs. Well, you need to stick around to see if the Colts are in Frank's latest playoff projections. But Frank, if we were to put the panic meter up on the Jumbotron, and not like the old Fanometer they used to do when I covered the White Sox back in the 90s at Comiskey, where they would put the meter up and they would encourage the fans there to make noise, and then the meter would move. It was all fake, guys. It was all pre-recorded. No matter how much noise you made, the meter would go up, just so you know. Okay?
Wow, Santa's not
real. It wasn't real. Where is your actual
spirit?
Panic
Grinch is all of a sudden came wow
on the Colts? I'm not being a Grinch. If you can't get over like 90s stadium promotions for the White Sox there with Frank Thomas and Ray Durham and Robin Ventura, Ozzie Guillen used to yell at me, then get over it. Anyway, Frank, panic meter Colts, what is it?
It's not that bad yet, but it's not zero. Like when they were 7-1, we were talking about, is this the best team of football? Are they going to a Super Bowl? Is Daniel Jones? And it's not the case anymore. And the thing with the Colts is, look, teams lose 3 or 4. It happens. It's not ideal. One of those losses was the Chiefs at overtime at Arrowhead. Like, this isn't the worst thing that's ever happened, but it's that their offense has just totally disappeared. And a lot of that has to be Daniel Jones' injury. I don't think that's a coincidence. Let's put it that way.
He has a broken leg.
Yes, he's got a broken leg. Like, I'm not sitting here saying there's not a valid excuse for this, but it's not the same offense. And that trickles down. Jonathan Taylor has not been the same guy. He's under 100 yards in each of their last 3 losses. The guy who was on a record pace before that. And it's just, you could see that it's just not the same for them lately. And their biggest problem, you kind of teased it before, is that this isn't the AFC North. This is a division that's got 2 teams that, look, the Jaguars just keep winning. I'm not the biggest Jaguars supporter in the world. Like, look, I picked up the win a division before the season started. I would really like, if I look smart and that happened, I watch the Jaguars every week. I'm like, I guess. And then they win. So they're 8-4. The Houston Texans are the team you got to watch out for. That defense is nasty. Like, it is really, really, really good. They're up to 7-5. And now I do think if you're the Colts, you're starting to look and say, if we don't fix these offensive issues very, very fast, we're going to miss the playoffs. Like, there's enough teams in the AFC that could jump them for a wild card, including 2 in their own division, that you should be worried. I think Indianapolis should be worried right now if they don't turn this thing around very, very fast.
Jori, what do you think?
This is a Colts team that on offense has a quarterback playing with a broken leg. Then on defense, you're like, oh, Sauce Gardner's our big acquisition. Well, now he's got an injury that's going to be sort of day-to-day, week-to-week, whichever it is. It's not going to be 100%. And oh, by the way, every single team they play for the rest of the year has a winning record right now. So it's the Jaguars and the Seahawks, then the Niners and the Jaguars and the Texans. So you have no easy games left. And previously you were playing teams like the Raiders and the Cardinals and the Titans and Dolphins that you're beating. So to me, it's not that they lost to the Chiefs and the Texans or even necessarily the Steelers. Like, the Chiefs and the Texans are both very good teams, as we talked about, particularly a Texans team with a great defense against a quarterback with a broken leg. But to me, I do feel like the Jonathan Taylor threat diminishes when Daniel Jones is no longer a threat to also take off if you are going to sell out on Jonathan Taylor. And I think that their division is just really sharp and challenging. What to me is interesting, and Frank, I'm kind of disappointed you talked about the Jaguars that way, is I just don't believe in the Jaguars. And I don't know that, maybe I'm just not watching them enough, but can you guys explain to me
You're calling frauds?
Why we should? I mean, I just feel like every year, that's to me, this whole division, it's like, yeah, there are teams who are good at winning some games, but I don't really trust any team in this division to go deep into the playoffs. Maybe the Texans defense, can their offense do it?
No, I don't trust the Jaguars that much, to be honest with you, either. But they find ways. the last couple of weeks. They almost blew it in Vegas, almost lost to the worst team in the NFL other than the Titans. But Devon Hamilton, our long snapper that we told you about yesterday, knocked down that 2-point conversion, and they got out of there with a victory. They made the Jacoby Myers trade, and he has been hyper-productive since then. He's getting in the end zone. He's running over the middle, doing all the dirty work that Liam Cohen wants his wide receivers to do, and it's made a huge difference here. Trevor Lawrence throws picks, I don't want to say left and right, but he's got a lot of them. He's got 14. But for every bad ball that he throws or strip sack and fumble that he has, he finds ways to just throw some, wow, did you see that? That's the number one overall pick kind of throws, and he does so in big moments. And their schedule actually sets up nicely. You know, I'll call it right now, the Houston hosting Indy game Week 18 is going to be the Sunday night game Week 18 to close the season, the Sunday night football game 272, and Jacksonville. Indianapolis' schedule is by far the worst. At Jacksonville, at Seattle, that Niners game is Sunday night football. Then you get the Jaguars again, and then you have to go to Houston. So Indianapolis and Houston by far have the toughest schedule. So maybe Jacksonville sneaks in and steals this. But Jori, I'm with you. If you had to rank teams that I have the most faith in here, Jacksonville would clearly be number 3.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, I know that the Texans have to play the Chiefs, but after that, I don't know. I don't think they have Cardinals and Raiders games they can hang their hat on. So I'm not sure from
they
a schedule
standpoint. They got to go to LA to face the Chargers.
I have no idea what to make of the Chargers. But
can you imagine those two defensive ends against the Chargers offensive line, though? Oh, my goodness. Ooh, that'd be ugly.
Right.
Yeah.
And a Justin Herbert with hand surgery right now. Yeah. But I think to me, if independent of the schedule, which obviously that's not how the playoffs work, if all these teams faced each other, let's say 4 out of 7, I trust the Texans the most right now.
Yeah, I trust the Texans the most right now, too, because just their defense is so good. I don't trust their offense. You're right, Andrew. Like they have offensive issues, but they've kind of figured it out a little bit. Like
they have.
That offensive line, like I look at the Raiders play offensive line every week, and I'm like, well, Texans actually fixed their problem, so they don't look that bad. Like, I mean, the Texans are at least somewhat competent on the offensive line now. They got young receivers coming along. CJ Stroud's back in the lineup. Nico Collins is awesome. Woody Marks is a really nice rookie find for them. So I think they're good enough on offense, and that defense is just wicked. Like, I mean, we all saw them play the Bills, and they kind of did the same thing to the Colts. Like they were just handing Indianapolis their lunch, and that defense ain't going anywhere. And so you ask, like, can any of these teams make a run in the playoffs? I think just because of the defense, the Texans might be the answer to that too. And I was not high on the Texans early in the season, before the season, anything like that. I didn't like their offensive line, didn't like their offense, but I didn't know their defense was going to be this good. This is almost a 2002 Buccaneers type of defense. That's how good this defense can be. It's not going anywhere.
And I think Matt Burke, their defensive coordinator, who is, obviously it's shared responsibilities here. D'Amico Ryan's Matt Burke. But Matt Burke is going to get head coaching interviews coming up in this cycle. You watch. If the Texans keep on making a run here, Matt Burke's phone is going to ring. I can guarantee you that. I also think the interesting storyline here in Houston, they survived last week. They won. CJ Stroud made enough throws and the defense did its thing. Look at the schedule, if this Sunday night in Kansas City, Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs answer the call, and on the national stage, they're the Chiefs again, and maybe CJ Stroud doesn't play his best game, I am Team CJ over here. But when do you hear angry Texans fans say, the offense looked a little bit better under Davis Mills?
Nope.
I'm telling you, get ready for that.
I know.
Get ready for it. I think it's nonsensical. I think they need to. I think they have to stick with CJ. CJ Stroud's the better player, period. We've seen that. But it's a weird dynamic right now. He comes back after 3 games out with a concussion. They win the game. But I'm just saying, that is one of those December storylines that you need to keep on the radar, because Frank, it might happen.
You might hear it. He also heard people talking about like Tyson Bagent should be starting over Caleb Williams. Like people get nuts about
and Marcus
quarterbacks.
Mariota over Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. We're not going. Davis Mills had a heck of a run. He did his job, but no. You hear?
Does anyone really think
Marcus Mariota find anything, Andrew? You can find it. Just type in any backup quarterback's name.
When you look at what Mariota did this weekend compared to like Jaden Daniels with none of his receivers or offensive linemen against the Cowboys a few weeks ago. I think the context matters, but not everybody does.
Now, we'll go back to the 49ers. If Brock Purdy threw 3 picks on Monday night, if Brock Purdy was harassed by the Browns defense in the first half this past Monday, and the Browns defense, by the way, did a very good job. They were given 3 horrible short fields to defend, and the Niners turned all 3 of those into touchdowns. But if Brock Purdy had another 2 picks and a strip sack by Myles Garrett in the first half last week, I guarantee you there's a loud Mac Jones conversation.
Sure.
Mac Jones did get into the game on Sunday, but he got into the final series to take a knee and to pump the fist because they won the game. It was already over.
Got the save.
Yeah, he got the save. All right, that's the AFC South. Oh, by the way, the Titans are 1-11. So there's that as well. The Titans and the Browns this week, the Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders head-to-head. The 2 guys that were training with each other all throughout the offseason and the pre-draft process, they actually are on the same field in the 1 o'clock window coming up in Week 14. I'm going to make another prediction. Can we do that? Here's my bold prediction for Week 14. Myles Garrett will break the NFL's single-season sack record this Sunday.
He needs 4?
He needs 4. He has 19 sacks. The NFL record is 22 and a half, held by morning television host Michael Strahan and the Steelers' TJ Watt. Myles Garrett needs 4 to break it. He will break the NFL single-season sack record this Sunday, Huntington Bank Field. Just saying.
I like it.
I'll bet against that.
I won't.
I'm not allowed to bet, so I can't take that action. Call Frank.
This season, I'm with you.
I got you, Jori.
This week, I'm not.
All of a sudden, we've turned Jori into a gambling degenerate. I love it. I got you. I got all your action. Whatever you need, Jori, just call me. Yeah, we're fine. We'll figure it out later.
Coming up, more action from Frank. His playoff projections. Did they change from a week ago? Does Frank believe in the Bears now? And how much does he truly believe in the Patriots? That's coming up on Inside Coverage. It's Inside Coverage on Yahoo now. The segment you've been waiting for all week. The segment you talked about at the Thanksgiving table. Forget about politics. Forget about do we like the stuffing in or out of the bird. Forget about, hey, Uncle so-and-so, what have you been doing recently? No. The segment you talk about is Frank's playoff projections. And now you fought through the holiday weekend and Black Friday, and here we go turning to December and a new week. And we are happy on Inside Coverage. Hi, I'm Andrew. That's Jori. And that's Frank over there. He's the guy, the bald guy. To give you Frank's playoff projections heading into Week 14. And we begin with the National Football Conference, where Frank has the Rams of Los Angeles as the number 1 seed. Even though they lost in Carolina, he's got his beloved Packers at 2, the Eagles at 3, the Bucs at 4. Those are your division winners, followed by the Seahawks, the Bears, and the 49ers. Jori, we will let you ask Frank the first question.
Frank, I want to know whether the NFC Championship game will be played between 0, 1, or 2 teams from the NFC West.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
That's a great question.
I like that.
And I think it's 2. Because I could sit here, because I could make the argument that the 49ers aren't dead in that conversation either. Like if it was 49ers at Rams, would we be that surprised? I really wouldn't be. I have a great deal of respect and trust in this season. We can trust nobody in the Rams and the Seahawks. I think they're the 2 best teams of football. I went back and forth on whether I should have the Seahawks as number 1 seed or the Rams as the number 1 seed. I think it's that close. I think that Week 16 game is going to be very interesting. And yes, Andrew has said this before. I will jump on the bandwagon. there's going to be a third meeting between the Seahawks and the Rams this season. They're two best teams, and I think they deserve to play in an NFC championship. So I will go with two NFC West teams in the NFC championship game.
I'm not counting the Niners out. I just don't think we get 3 teams in the NFC championship game.
Yeah.
If we do,
it'd be awesome. It'd be awesome.
That would be amazing.
Round robin.
Imagine the ticket prices. As a Rams season ticket holder, I am all for 3 teams in the NFC Championship game. Let's go. Madison, can we put the NFC bracket, rather Frank's projections up one more time? Frank, I'm looking, and I do not see the Detroit Lions on the screen here, Frank. So are we getting an early projection, or rather early game call for TNF this week? Are the Cowboys beating the Lions, but neither make the playoffs?
Could be. I take my personal safety very seriously, and I worried that if I put the Lions in and the Bears completely out of the playoffs, that the whole state of Illinois might come to Colorado and find
Frank,
me.
Frank, you just announced where you spend 7 hours on Sunday.
Yeah,
I do.
Buffalo,
the restaurant and the town.
It's literally the same table, same seat every Sunday for like the last 12 years. I'm as Deion Sanders says, I ain't hard to find. Let's put it that way. So I almost felt like I had to put the Bears into the field. Part of me believes that. You called your shot earlier on game 272, Andrew. I'll call mine.
Yeah.
I think Lions at Bears is your 272. I think that those two teams are going to be playing for one playoff spot.
Or loser goes home.
Loser leaves town game. And the problem with that is it's going to be Chicago at 7:30 at night on January 4th or whatever that is. We know Jared Goff's issues playing outdoors, especially in the cold. So that might come down to that game, and maybe the Bears win that one. But it was tough to leave the Lions out. I still have not turned off the lights. I still believe there's some hope for the Lions still to make a run, make the playoffs, and kind of be a dangerous team in this NFL where nothing's permanent in this NFL season. So I kind of hold out hope for my Lions friends out there that they can still make the playoffs. I don't think the door's closed, but right now I had to leave them out.
Well, yeah. So for those who don't know, the Week 18 games, none of the times are scheduled. It's all just up in the air, and the NFL decides after the Week 17 games finish who's going to be, well, we know who's playing, but what time those games are. So, for example, yours truly can't book a flight to Cincinnati because there is still the opportunity for the Browns and the Bengals to be the Week 18 NBC game 272. Who knows? I can't book that flight. In all seriousness, we don't know if it's a 1 o'clock game or a 4 o'clock game.
But
well, you don't know if it's 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock.
Was it Frank or C-Rob who last week we who said on the record on this show that if the Bears beat the Eagles, they would start believing in the Bears?
Oh, I think that was me. Yeah, I think that was me.
I
put him in my playoff field. Come on, I put him in the playoff.
So don't say I'm just putting it there for my safety. No, you're putting them there because they just beat the Eagles and they're playing well, and they just had 2 rushers go over 100 yards.
They did. They are playing better.
Champions.
They are playing better. They deserve to be in a playoff field right now. They deserve to be in a playoff field.
He
Frank,
said it.
You are leaning into this. I give you credit, Frank. You are leaning into it. You are embracing the engagement. Embrace the engagement. That's what you are doing. And I tip my cap to you. Let's look at the AFC. We already told you the Patriots are the 1 seed, at least right now, in the AFC. And if after their bye in 2 weeks they beat the Bills, they will wrap up the AFC East. The Patriots, in Frank's latest projections, are the 1 seed. The team very close to that Buffalo Wild Wings, in which he sits for 7 hours on Sunday, is the 2 seed. The Colts, with a broken-legged quarterback, are the 3 seed. He has the Ravens somehow coming out of the AFC North. The NFL has voted the AFC North will get a playoff team this year. The Bills, the Jaguars, and the Texans are your wild card. Jori, what stands out to you in the AFC?
Yeah, I think what stands out to me, like you with the Lions, Andrew, is not who's there, but who isn't there. Because the last 7 years, not only has Patrick Mahomes advanced to the playoffs, but he has played in the AFC Championship game. Frank, how are the Chiefs losing this? When are they going to be out? What hope is there for Patrick Mahomes?
It's getting harder. I mean, a few weeks ago, I thought, okay, well, you look at their schedule, Texans, they'll beat that. Well, not anymore. I can't sit here and tell you they absolutely beat the Texans coming up. They still have the Chargers. They still have the Broncos. at some point you just lose too many games. We're to the point where, because of tiebreaker stuff too, against teams like the Jaguars and even the Chargers at the moment, that
Bills
and maybe the Texans if they lose that game, where you get to the point where the Chiefs might have to win out, and they don't have an easy schedule the rest of the way. I can't put it past Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid doing that. But at this point, I can't project it either. I can't sit here and say, yeah, Chiefs are going to beat the Texans, Broncos, the Chargers. It's too hard. I just can't right now. I have to put the Chiefs out of my playoff field. And the Chiefs have made me look bad year after year after year by just saying dumb things about the Chiefs, and then they win a Super Bowl. So this might happen again. Very possible. But right now, got to have the Chiefs out of the field.
I mean, the Chiefs are the 10 seed in the AFC. So, they do have to jump over a whole lot of teams to get there. And there are teams, and we pointed this out a couple of weeks ago, it's simply bad math because they don't have the head-to-head tiebreaker with the teams you just listed, including the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills are resurgent of late. I mean, whatever you want. I still don't know what to make of the Bills, and I don't know what to make of Kansas City either. But I do know that it's bad math, and their 6-6 is a heck of a lot different than the Steelers or the Ravens 6-6, because one of those two gets into the other. There's no way the other one, in all likelihood, is going to get a wild card. Kansas City is in the West, and Kansas City is behind Denver. And Kansas City, even with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, it is simply bad math. I am not rooting for or against them. Unlike Frank, I don't take my predictions, bold or otherwise, from a few weeks ago and then simply root for them to be true. I said the Chiefs were burnt ends. I love burnt ends. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing. I'm kind of rooting for them to make the playoffs now so that I could be wrong. What's that, Frank?
It's a compliment, actually. Burnt ends are great. Yeah, you order that.
Burnt ends are fantastic. Yeah. So also in the AFC, you have the Colts hanging on. So you said the panic meter is not high for them when we went through the AFC South. Through all that, Frank, you still think that the Colts hang on and win the division?
I need to be really honest with you guys. It's just us. Nobody, it's fine. No Bears fans are lurking here or anything like that. Why don't you see what I say about their team? I knew. I looked at the Colts schedule. I knew it was tough. When Jori started listing it again, though, I'm sitting here thinking the Colts aren't winning that division. That schedule. Oh my goodness. Yes, it is. It is like just hearing it again. I was like,
I think the Texans are.
It might be the Texans. At Jacksonville's no. Oh, that's
home for the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. Home for the Jaguars again, and then at Houston.
And they're not winning that game, I don't think. If the Houston defense keeps playing like this, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And so you look and you're like, how many of these games are the Colts actually going to win? I'll stick with the Colts. Part of the reason I stuck with the Colts is my division champs is I do want to give them some respect. They were so disrespected early in the season. Even they were beating good teams, but everybody's like Daniel Jones. You go fall by the wayside. I want to be a little contrarian on that and just give the Colts their credit. Like this has been a good football team that just happened to catch a really bad injury to their quarterback that derailed their offense. But now, I mean, really hearing the schedule out loud again, I'm like, ooh, this is going to get a little scary for the Colts down the stretch here. So, yeah, I'll stick with the Colts, but it's a lot more tenuous than it was about 15 minutes ago when Jori listed that schedule. I did have second thoughts. I can't lie to you.
You know what stands out to me, too, just looking at both of these brackets here, the AFC and the NFC, is just the crazy week-to-week nature of evaluating young quarterbacks, where obviously the entire offseason we talked about how great last year's class was. And then early in the season, we looked at some of the performance of some of these quarterbacks, Caleb Williams or J.J. McCarthy, who's the odd man out here in all this because he didn't have a rookie season, and we condemned the entire class. But now look at it. You have 3 of the top 4 teams in Frank's playoff projection. You have them with, or rather 1, 2, I beg your pardon, the top 2 in the AFC, with second-year quarterbacks, with Drake May and with Bo Nix. And both of those teams, and we talked a lot about Mike Vrabel earlier, both of those teams are prime examples of, with the right coach, but more importantly, the right quarterback, you can turn things around. And the NFL does this every year, where they have at least 4 quote-unquote new teams make the postseason. Teams that didn't make it a year ago. It is the way they sell hope every offseason. It is the way that wherever you are and whomever you root for, they tell you that next year can be different. Now, the Broncos made the playoffs a year ago. They went to Buffalo and they got killed, and they did so with the rookie quarterback. But they're back in year 2. Look at the Patriots. Same thing. New head coach and a second-year quarterback. They're back. Just look at the AFC in general. The Patriots, the Colts, the Jags, the Texans.
Coach,
No. Or the Jags, the Texans made it last year. You have 3 teams that didn't make it a year ago.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it's
and I think
this is the hope of the NFL, that you could just turn it around. Like with one good draft class that includes a quarterback and a new coach. Look at the Commanders last year. That was their formula. Like, as this does happen. Like, just think of that. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's not out of the question that we could have the AFC playoffs start without Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes. It's not likely, but it could happen. And that's unbelievable to me.
No, and I think what's interesting to me is that when the NFC West really started to rack up the wins at the beginning of this season, I was talking to someone, it was at owners' meetings, I asked them, and I'm like, what do you think it is? And you guys have a great division. And they're like, yeah, but what do we have in common with the NFC North last year? It's that we're playing the AFC South. And so if you're playing a division that's weaker, you will be able to pad your wins. But first of all, as we talked about on the last segment, the AFC South is not as weak as it used to be. And second of all, when I go through and I said, okay, the AFC South has 3 teams with at least 7 wins, 2 of whom have at least 8. Who else has that? And there were 3 divisions where at least 3 teams had 7 wins already at this point in the season. It was the AFC South, the NFC North, and the NFC West. And none of them have overlapping people in terms of who they play. The AFC South has played the AFC West and NFC West. The NFC North has played NFC East and AFC North. And the NFC West, which has 3 9-win teams, NFC South and AFC South. I know that was a lot of rattling off of the divisions, but the point is, of their 2 divisions that they play that aren't themselves, none of them had overlap. And I thought that was interesting in terms of it's just a reflection of the parity as opposed to one division really beating up on another division.
No, it's a great point. And it's all formulaic. For those that don't know, it all rotates. All of it is mapped out years in advance. You can easily Google right now who your favorite team plays next year. And there's only 2 games or 3 games that are really hanging in the balance. And it's going to come down to where you finish in your standings. And there's going to be a one-off game against one team in the conference and one team out of the conference in already predetermined divisions. You can map all this out years in advance. But as I always say, strength of schedule, whatever you look at in the offseason, whatever you look at through training camp, whatever you project in September and through week 1, it all goes out the window once they start playing games in December. Because teams that you thought were going to be good are bad, and teams that you thought were going to be bad are good. Obviously, that is the way it goes. That's why there is parity, and that's why the NFL is the greatest narrative machine out there. It's going to create a new narrative every Sunday, every week, every month, every season, and that narrative feeds the beast, whether it's in the media or through the fans or for fantasy, the networks, whatever. All right. Let's do one more thing before we go. Jori is going first.
Oh, one more thing. I thought you were going to explain one more thing. Yes, my one more thing for today is that Stanford is getting a good one in Tavita Pritchard, who was hired as their head coach. He's been the Washington Commanders quarterbacks coach for the last few years. He actually was there before Dan Quinn got there. Dan Quinn kept him in the building. And I worked with him on multiple stories, including a preseason feature this year on Jaden Daniels. And among the things Tavita said to me that I was just really impressed with is that when we were talking about Jaden Daniels and the way that he had developed, there's this idea of sometimes you're the quarterbacks coach and you say, this is how you need to do it. And he's like, no, I called up Taylor Kelly, his personal quarterbacks coach, who I had known from my time at Stanford, and said, well, what are you doing with him? And how can we try and align? And how can we try and sync and take the ego out of this? And I think that when you have coaches who take the ego out of it and don't need it to necessarily be their way or their terminology, but instead make it easier on the quarterback, you have, in part, what we saw with Jaden Daniels. All credit to Jaden as well. And so when I think about Stanford, I think this sport is better when we have great quarterbacks and quarterbacks who are trained in great ways. And Tavita is one of the coaches who is taking approaches to give us more great quarterbacks in the NFL.
Very cool. And I also think it's cool as well that Stanford kind of keeps it in-house and the family brings back one of its own with Andrew Luck already there in the building to be its new head coach. Also, great if you look at the NFL Films social handles to see the reaction there when they told the team the news, whether it's from Dan Quinn or from Jeremy Reeves, who was up there ahead of the team. I thought that was very cool. NFC East Hard Knocks dropping this week as well. Will we have a Saquon Joe Shane moment? Tune in. Frank, you're one more thing.
There's few players in the NFL, especially sports in general, who have pretty much 100% approval rating. I think Mike Evans is one of those guys. I think everybody roots for Mike Evans. He's been consummate pro, been a fantastic, representative for the NFL, for the Buccaneers. Just great. Like, who doesn't like Mike Evans? We all remember the celebration when he got over 1,000 yards last year. His teammates coming off the sideline. Awesome to see. So when you saw him go down with an injury so many weeks ago, vicious injury, broken collarbone, he's 32 years old. You had to wonder, not necessarily that was career ending for Mike Evans, but are we going to see him again this season? When we see him again next season, is he going to be the same? So to see Mike Evans coming back to practice this week, just put a smile on my face. I love it. I love seeing guys like that get back to the NFL. And make no mistake, this affects the NFC playoff picture in a big way. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have played the third hardest schedule in the NFL so far, and that includes a game last week against Arizona, now have the second easiest schedule going forward. They just got Bucky Irving back. Chris Godwin looked like his old self. They're getting healthy. I've talked over and over about there's a weird NFL season. There's no great teams. We might have kind of a random champion who just gets hot late, keeps that going through January, wins a Super Bowl. I think getting Mike Evans back is huge for the Buccaneers, not just because it's a great feel-good story, but on the field, you add Mike Evans, guy who just cranks out 1,000-yard seasons every time. I'm really excited to see Mike Evans back, just because you had no idea if this was going to happen. So my one more thing, I'm really excited. Hope to see Mike Evans back, stay healthy the rest of the season, and make the impact I think he could on this NFC race.
Yeah, he could be a game changer. A lot of teams getting healthy, a lot of teams getting players back down the stretch that they have not had for large stretches of this season, Mike Evans being one notable one. They could make a run. I still think there's a chance the Chiefs make a run, although we laid it out pretty clearly how bad the math is in Kansas City. Andy Reid gave us a doozy yesterday that I'm still trying to translate what exactly he meant. He was doing his call with the local media, and he said basically they're going to keep fighting, but he did it in a very Andy Reid way.
I'm sure you've looked at the standings. This isn't your first rodeo. You know that you pretty much have to win the next 5 games. If you lose one, you're going to need a lot of help to get into playoffs. What's your level of confidence that things can start going your way and that you can win these next 5 games in a row?
Yeah, well, I believe that. I mean, I believe if you're coming to me on this, Matt, I'm telling you, we're going to go after you every game. And, that's how we roll. We're going to try to tickle your tonsils on every play, every game. And, but that's the attitude that we're coming in with. And then you let the chips fall where they may. But at the same time, you got to make sure you take care of the small things here that we've got rolling. We've got to make sure that we get rid of some of these mistakes. But there's not a game that I go into that I don't think we're going to get after you.
Okay, we're going to try to tickle your tonsils. I don't know what that means. I'm not one of these people that says, I've been covering the league for so many years, but I'm about to. I've been covering this league since I'm old, mid-90s. I have never, ever heard, whether it's in football or any other context, we're going to try to tickle your tonsils. Frank, is he trying to say we're going to try to hit you hard? Like Jackson Dart running down the sideline willy-nilly? What does we're going to try to tickle your tonsils mean?
I have no answer for this, Jori. You got one? I'm at a loss.
Jori?
I think it's kind of like we're going to shove it down their throats, kick them in the mouth, all of that. The tonsils are in your throat, except mine, because I got them out in 2001. So Andy, try and tickle my tonsils. No luck will be had. But that is what I think. But I don't know. If we can bite kneecaps for the first time with Dan Campbell, why can't we tickle tonsils for the first time with Andy Reid?
I think that's the perfect note to end the show on. If we can bite kneecaps, we can tickle tonsils. Thank you, Andy Reid. Don't know what it means, but it's something to contemplate. For Jori and for Frank, I'm Andrew Siciliano. As mentioned, Brooke Pryor is going to join us on Wednesday. Is this the end for Mike Tomlin? Or Aaron Rodgers, for that matter? These are two very legitimate questions to ask, and hopefully we can answer on Wednesday on Inside Coverage. We'll see you then.